Hey everyone, good afternoon. It's Hector Aguilar, Aguilar Realty Group, along with Ben
Banner
and with
agent, team
Pauline.
at ARG.
That's right. And with Pauline of MT Evictions. We had to restart our presentation for today because computers, right? Technology, you gotta love it, and then sometimes you hate it. We had a small glitch. It kind of kicked us out of our system, but we're back to be with you here. Again, I wanted to invite Paulina, who's been a guest with us before. She's with MT Evictions out of Montebello, California. Her and her team, they help or they serve really the LA County communities throughout Los Angeles. And I wanted her to share some information with us because, as many may or may not know, the COVID-19 protections that were in place through March 31st, 2022, have expired. So there's a new Assembly Bill 2179, that has some updates. And Pauline is going to be kind enough to share with us what those updates are and what effects they have on both tenants and landlords. Go ahead, Pauline. Welcome to our show, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having me. And yes, here we are giving you the latest information. And as we were chatting about earlier, this is an ever evolving field, right? Last time we were talking about a whole different set of rules. This next set of rules are only alive and active for the next 3 months. So this is a golden window of opportunity for LA County landlords. If you're a landlord in LA County, this is the window that you were waiting for. I'm going to go into logistics in a minute. But if you're in Orange County, Riverside County, or San Bernardino, really, this doesn't face you. We've been almost back to normal since October 1st, 2021. So if you're in those counties, really, this is just additional information, but you were able to start evictions for landlord occupancy or for substantial rehab since back in October. This information really is more catered to LA County. So if you are in LA County, here we go. So this bill was introduced on March 31st, 2022, and to take effect April 1st. This is a breakdown of the bill. The bill is about there's two versions of the bill. The simplified version, which is 10 pages, and the detailed page, which is 56, right? Oh, wow. But thanks to us, you have it all in 2 slides. So I'm going to give you the breakdown. Yes. So first and foremost, protections are only for rents due during the COVID timeframe. So COVID timeframe or COVID rents, it goes back retroactive to the beginning of COVID, which is March 2020. And it's effective officially over March 31, 2022. So for 2 years. Now, what this bill really says is if you have a renter that is in the rent relief program and their application is pending, under review, or in process, you have to hold an eviction, and landlord may not proceed with an eviction until they get paid out. California is really backed up with applications. They're taking about 5 to 7 months to pay. So this is the reason why they gave a 3-month extension on evicting for COVID-related rents.
Understood.
Now, if your tenant, even if they're in the COVID-related period and you're going to get funding for that time frame, rents are still owed from April and on. So if the tenant does not pay rents from April and on, you could still commence an eviction proceeding for that, okay? So I want to make that clear, that distinction. Now, for the landlords that their renters did not partake in the rent relief program and the rent relief application is inactive or denied, you could do an eviction for old rents and the new rents. Now, everything is divided by phases and periods. So rule number 1, do not do one eviction notice for everything, okay? Well, actually, I love to tell my clients, no one should be doing their own taxes, their own divorce, their own Botox, or their own eviction notices. Just don't.
I agree with you 100%. Don't do your own evictions. Please seek professional help.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not like the good old days. When I started doing evictions 17 years ago, it was transactional. It was just a matter of technicalities on paper, making
Mhm.
sure everything was right, and it was just processing documents. Now it's real litigation. Now
Right.
it's real wars between attorneys, plaintiff and defendants. So it's no longer the good old days.
Right.
Okay. Now, rent relief is only going to cover up to 18 months or March 31, 2022 only.
Okay.
And thanks to this bill, it's preemptive to local moratoria. What does this mean? So LA County, which has had a huge moratorium on every single property, whether it's a single family dwelling, whether it's 2 units on on a lot, new built or built, does not matter. They're protecting every single resident in LA County.
Correct.
LA County was and had already rolled out a phase 4 protection on evictions. That evictions could not happen for non-payment of rent until the end of the year.
I see.
So, thanks to this bill, we have a 3-month opportunity because this bill stomps LA County moratoria.
Oh,
So it
that's great.
supersedes it, right?
Correct.
That's
Correct.
great.
And when you say that it's a 3-month opportunity for landlords, you're meaning it's a 3-month opportunity where the landlords can commence their eviction process with non-paying tenants that are not paying effective April, May, or June, correct?
Correct. Now, this is the thing. LA County, and if you follow them on social media, you could see they warned their followers and their tenants that due to AB 2179, they're no longer protected from April through June only, but they will continue with their moratoria from July 1st to the end of the year. And that they're going to make this retroactive. So what does this mean? This means that if we started an eviction and we did not get a judgment, it may be invalid if once this bill expires. So we're really in a time crunch. Everybody's trying to get those evictions in. We're going to put our energy and focus, even if we have to work 24/7, to get the evictions processed as fast as we possibly can within the court deadlines so we could get judgments. Because the key to this.
Let me ask you a quick question in terms of judgments. And I'm only mentioning this because Ben and I are under contract with one of our buyers where the tenant has had an eviction process started, but because of the moratorium, they weren't able to execute the writ of execution.
Right.
Is that going to change in this April, May, June? Is the court now expected
that changed
to
a while back. So what courthouse is this?
I want to say it's probably Pomona, if I'm not mistaken, because the property's in La Puente.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to take a look at this because the freeze on evictions expired in September 2020.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to take a look at
2020.
The freeze on the writs for eviction.
Oh, I see. So those expired in September 2020. Wonderful. What we'll do is you and I will get together after our webinar today, so I can get you that information and put you in touch with the agent on the other side. Because I think we need to push that on that. But it's good to note that at least the evictions. So my follow-up question to that, and sorry, Ben, to interrupt you, is expediting the writ of executions from the court, right? Like, how long do you think that'll take if we start the eviction process like now? I mean, is the court committed to getting them done in this 90-day window?
Oh, no, the court is not committing to anything. They want to not approve evictions, but it's really not about the writ. It's about the judgment. Once we get a judgment, that's when you're free and clear. So the sheriff could take another month after that, and that's what they take. Some sheriffs are taking a month to 2 months to process because they do have a less staff for evictions.
And they're probably backlogged, right, from everyone that's trying to get evictions done.
But what matters is the judgment. So as long as you have the judgment, you're free to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
I feel like we got that, but
Yeah, I think you're right, Ben. I think we did get this confirmation that they have a judgment, but they just haven't executed on the writ
Yeah,
just yet.
I would
Yeah,
take a
just
look at that. Yeah, because I would have to see the file and see exactly what's going on to assess.
Fantastic. Well, sidebar with that on that one when we're done with the
yeah.
webinars.
So
And
Go
what
ahead.
now there's an important disclosure. The moratoria excludes LA City and Beverly Hills. The reason being is because when LA City and Beverly Hills issued their no evictions for rents moratoria, it never had an expiration date. So
um,
due to that, that's why they supersede the state. But unincorporated LA, which is the LA County, they had an
Yeah.
expiration date monthly on their moratoria, extending it monthly, and thanks to that, state rules over their moratoria.
Excellent. So people, tenants or pardon me, landlords that are in LA City that own property within LA City limits, they still have to abide by the previous moratoriums in place at least to the end of 2022.
Correct.
got it.
Okay.
That's very clear. Thank you.
Yes. Now, so what's next? I repeat, if you're in LA County, with the exception of LA City or Beverly Hills, you could definitely jump for an eviction. Take advantage of this opportunity. What defenses are we expecting on evictions? Is mainly two. Number one is property must be habitable. And just to make it clear, landlords must review and do an inspection on their properties one time per year to make sure that the unit is habitable. Now, there was a new bill introduced at the beginning of the year that did state that a landlord cannot collect rents if the property is not habitable. So, in essence, a landlord cannot issue an eviction notice if the rental unit is missing smoke detectors, plumbing is leaking, window screens are missing. If you want a list of the items, you could always email our team at mtevictions@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
We'll send you the list of things to look for along with the 24-hour notice so you could go and inspect the rental units.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Cool.
Another thing that's going to come up, or I'm expecting to come up, were there any illegal rent increases done throughout the tenancy?
I see. Or illegal notices as well.
Or illegal notice. And yeah, an illegal notice, that's your foundation to your case. You will lose on a technicality. So it's an expensive lesson. Don't make that mistake.
Case in point, again, don't do an eviction on your own. Please hire professionals. And if you're in LA County, MT Evictions is one of the best.
So what about those people? What about those people that like we have the seller hiring the attorney? They don't go through like a company like yours. What happens in that situation?
I mean, so as long as you're hiring a professional, and there's a lot of good professionals out there, then you should be in good hands.
Like if they get an attorney, is that a different situation? They get an attorney versus you guys?
No, I am a UDI licensed paralegal, but I'm also attorney supported. So we do have attorneys that will go to court. We do jury trials if need to be. So we're a landlord consulting hub and a one-stop shop for a landlord from A through Z. Credit checks, rental agreements, rent increases. We want to avoid an eviction. We're an eviction company, but that's our last resort.
Gotcha.
You want to segue into a buyout if possible, because really that's what we're doing in court. Most of the time we're going to segue into an agreement because that's what the judge rules for every case to do. Go outside and try to figure it out because I don't want to hear all these cases today. And really that's their mentality. And why spend a lot of money to go to court to do that outside of court? Now, you do need a professional to put that agreement in writing for you because those agreements are still regulated, although you're not in court.
Gotcha.
Got it.
And just to clarify, we also service Orange County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino counties.
Oh, good. So you service all 4 major counties that we serve.
Yes.
It's good to know.
We actually love San Bernardino. Orange and Riverside because we don't deal with as many headaches as LA County. And the reason being, LA County offers free attorneys to tenants.
Gotcha.
Any other county doesn't.
Yeah, that always complicates things, I'm sure, when they have an attorney that's representing them for free, right?
Yeah, our tax.
And it's not to say, look, it's not to say that we're against tenants, that we want to get them out. That's not the case. Obviously there's protections in place to benefit tenants, but just like anything else, I think there are some tenants that take advantage of the situation. And unfortunately, on the losing end are landlords that are sitting on properties that have also fallen behind on their mortgage because they're not collecting those rents or they're not receiving the rents that are due to them. And so please don't misunderstand what we're trying to do. We're just trying to educate you as to what the new laws and new assembly bills that are in place. So we're not trying to, discourage, or encourage landlords to get all these tenants out. It's just we're trying to get you the information so you make a good decision in terms of what you need to do for your property. And if an eviction is necessary for your tenant, again, don't do it alone. Call Pauline and her team at MT Evictions because they're going to guide you to make sure that you have a successful outcome if we can get the court to get the judgment within these 3 months, right?
Definitely. And I always like to say these rules don't really protect bad tenants because good tenants, we don't see them here. You don't go to an eviction company because you have a good tenant. Most of the time, everything gets sorted out. It's really rare when we see a good tenant that's having to go through an eviction. Most of the time are the bad tenants that are in play, and unfortunately those are the ones that take advantage of the rules. And these rules were put in place back in the 60s to regulate on the slum landlords, right? But over time it's gone more and more and more one-sided. So it went from we need protection for tenants to whoa, there's no protections for landlords now.
Right. And many landlords find themselves in that same situation where they feel like there's no protection or help for landlords, and it is a shame. Hopefully these assembly bills and protections that are in place are to benefit tenants. We get that, but at some point, obviously the rent relief that was available through March 31st was in consideration to our landlords that could get some kind of help. Maybe the tenants could apply for them, provide everything they need, and be able to at least recover some of their losses versus all not getting anything at all. So, it's good information to put out.
Definitely. And before I forget, tenancies that commenced after October 1st, 2021, I just realized I have a typo here on the year. None of these bills apply. Okay? So all these bills really go for tenants that were that started their tenancy prior to October 1st, 2021.
Okay.
So you're dealing with a newer tenant. It's traditional law.
Okay. So if you took in a property as a tenant starting October 1st, 2021, these protections don't apply to you. You're still under the same standard eviction regulations if you can't pay rent.
Correct.
All right. Good to know.
Yes. And
anything else on this particular slide that we haven't covered?
No, the only thing that comes to mind though is in LA County, evictions for denial of entry will start after July 1st. And also for landlord occupancy, they will begin in July 1st, regardless of when you purchase your property. Right now, landlord occupancy evictions are allowed if the property was purchased before January 30th, 2021. So older landlords, then it's going to expire starting this June. That was a 1-year freeze. So it's going to be reactivated after June. Now, the only caveat to that is that a tenant must be up to date with their rents in order to do a landlord occupancy eviction in LA County. Outside LA County, it does not matter.
So basically what that means is that the landlord is evicting the tenant because he now wants to occupy the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Wonderful. Good to clarify that.
Thank you. I think, Ben, you had a question?
Yeah, just real quick. I'm new to all this. So what does tenancy commence? What does that mean?
If the tenancy started after October 1st.
Yeah, in other words, like the tenant took possession of the property after that date or before that date. In other words, whenever the tenant took possession of the property, right?
Yes, correct. Now my typo is on the year. It should be 2021.
Got it. Yeah, we're not in October 1st just yet.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pauline. And
Thank you. So I'm going to stop my screen share.
Okay.
And unless you guys have any other questions.
I don't see any in the chat.
Yeah. Do we have any questions in the chat, Ben?
Not yet. No, not yet. No.
Okay. Honestly, I think the only thing is, just to recap, is this is a golden window of opportunity for landlords for the next 3 months that are in LA County, excluding the city of LA and Beverly Hills, for them to start eviction process, but only if the tenants don't pay rent for April, May, or June. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if I have a question. For example, I'm in a contract right now where it's 4 units. All of the tenants, with the exception of one, are paying on time, and the one tenant that isn't paying just recently got or received assistance through the program, and he was given a check, and he caught up with his rent because I believe he was only behind maybe 2 or 3 months. Caught up with his rent, and now he's again not defaulted, but he's only paid a partial payment to that for his rent. So would the landlord now be able to process an eviction if he can't make the rent payment?
Yeah, so any eviction starts with the foundation of the legal notice, right? So it would be a 3-day, 30-day notice. 30-day in the event there's any CARES Act protection. What's a CARES Act protection? If the property, the mortgage is federally backed, that's a CARES Act protection. Or if the tenant receives Section 8, disability benefits, any type of benefits. So that's the distinguishing factor for the type of notice. It's solely 3-day notice if there's no CARES Act in the solution. If there is a CARES Act protection, then it's a 3-day, 30-day. So what's the difference? You get 3 days to pay me rent or 30 days to move out. You choose. So I could start my eviction after the 30 days versus the 3 days. So that's
so for example, like this particular tenant, if I'm not mistaken, he receives permanent disability income.
So that would be
he would probably fall under the CARES Act, correct?
Correct.
So the landlord would have to serve him with a 3-day notice or quit, or 30 days to move out.
No, it's 1 notice and 2. So it's called a 3-day, 30-day.
3-day, 30 days.
So the notice, in essence, is giving the tenant the opportunity to either pay or move out.
Gotcha.
But the move out date is extended to 30 days. As such, the notice date is 30 days out. Now, the new notices do have, of course, new verbiage under the state of California. You can find the new verbiage under that bill, AB 2179, or your professional. Once they prepare the notices should be updated.
Okay, good to know. Finally, the last question I had for you is, let's say a landlord starts the process of tenancy or eviction, pardon me. How long should we maybe understand, or maybe how long will it take for the court to actually get through these eviction processes? I mean,
those are great questions. That's a great question, and the answer is, I don't know.
None of us know.
Because none of us know. Every case is so different. The average eviction that's not contested is taking right now about 3 to 4 months. And this is a tenant not fighting an eviction. 3 to 4 months. Why? Because there's deadlines. We can't proceed. We can't move forward until the time frame expires. Then we submit our request. Another time frame needs to go through. Then we submit our request. And then finally, the sheriff portion. The sheriff is taking about a month and a half. So we're looking about 3 to 4 months, including the sheriff time frame. Now, if the case is contested and we have to go to court, if we're outside LA County, we're still going to hit the 3 to 5 month mark. Okay. If we're in LA County, you're looking at an average of 8 months. Why? Because courts are being assigned, like right now, we're in April, we have an assignment of a case till July. That was unheard of prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, the courts had to schedule an eviction within 20 days because evictions were considered a priority. Due to all this pandemic moratoriums, we're still under a state of emergency. Courts do not have that obligation to give us priority.
Wow. So maybe that kind of sheds light to the fact that, why are these taking so long? It's that they're no longer scheduled within that 20-day requirement. They were probably scheduled a month, 2 months out, and then the timeline starts, right?
Delay. Yeah.
Yes.
Tough position that some landlords are in, especially those that own single family residences that are selling their properties in order to take advantage of the market, and you have a tenant in place that isn't performing. So great information. It's good to understand that. I think hopefully this will give some landlords a little bit sense of clarity and some help. In addition to tenants, understanding that they're no longer, if they didn't meet the deadline of March 31st, as for assistance, they're not going to get it, at least for the next 3 months, or at least to the end of the year, because the protection or that particular program ended on the 31st. So lots of changes coming when it comes to tenancy and landlords that we're going to see here in the next 3 to 6 months. It's always important to have someone like MT Evictions and Paulina and her team on your side to kind of guide you. She's extremely affordable in terms of the initial consultations. And I know that they have I believe you guys have a menu of services kind of.
Yeah, definitely. Right? So first off, we do the first consulting appointment for $95, which is a great bargain because I know a lot of firms are charging about $350 for that initial consult. Now, our consult, we're strategizing, we're checking your paperwork, we're checking what's missing and what needs to be course corrected, because that's important, right? And at the same time, we want to avoid an eviction. So we are going to offer settlement letters. We're going to offer a buyout agreement, because if you could fix your eviction problem or your tenant problem with $600 versus $2,000, we try to go with what makes more sense. And it really comes case by case basis, because every scenario is so unique and particular. Now, if we do have member services, there's a lot of real estate companies or agents or property managers or investors that need to have us on retainer, on call, emails. So we do make that available for them for $195 a month. So for $195 a month, we're on retainer. We're like the virtual assistants. Check, anything that they need to cross-reference, we're here. We do special webinars, monthly webinars for them, member news, and of course, discounted rates on services. So
that's great. That's a great option.
Have either or for whatever the client needs.
What a wonderful option. I mean, if you're an investor that has multiple properties, what better than to have MT Evictions on retainer? It seems like it's a much better deal than on a per deal basis. So that's a great option. Thank you, Pauline.
Yeah, definitely.
Ben, do you have any other questions, Ben? I know that Pauline has a pending appointment. I don't want to hold on to her too long.
Well, I'll call you if I have a question. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Hector, for having me on again. It's a pleasure. And
we look forward to having you on many more times.
You can rely on us.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if we have any more updates, we'll bring you on again. I think it's definitely a theme of information that both landlords and tenants need in this time. So I thank you for your time, Pauline. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Everyone, take care, everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye.